Hello, and welcome to Homeowner AF, the Canadian first-time homebuying podcast. I'm Brianna Goslin, mortgage agent level 2, and I work with Canadian first-time homebuyers every single day. If you want to own real estate in Canada but aren't sure how to position yourself to get there, this is the podcast for you. I want to see more young Canadians in the market, building equity and long-term wealth. That starts with getting the right advice at the right time, so you're positioned to act when it matters. Each week, I'll bring you bite-sized episodes that actually move the needle toward homeownership. Short, strategic, and packed with practical tips that you can use right away. I'll cover topics like minimum down payment, closing costs, credit, co-signers, and more. Remember, your finances are like a thumbprint. No two are the same. For advice tailored specifically to you, book your free call at briecallme.com. Now, let's get into it. Hi there, welcome to Homeowner AF. Today, we're unpacking the big one. Is right now a good time to buy? I get asked this actually quite often socially, maybe not quite as often with my clients who come to me already thinking it's a great idea to purchase their first home, but at family barbecues, social events, school events for my kiddos, lots of people, once they find out what I do, they ask me if right now is a good time either to move up or to get into the market. And the frustrating answer I usually give is, I don't know, is right now a good time for you? Because typically it depends on what your finances look like, what you're looking to do, and what's possible in your current market. So instead of answering that question for you, I will give you kind of a framework to work around, to ask yourself some questions and to really think about, is now a good time to buy for you? Full disclosure, I won't convince you to purchase a home, and I can't convince you to purchase a home. If you are listening to this podcast, then you know that qualifying for your first mortgage involves intentional work to get ready. And I cannot drag somebody along that process if they've not fully bought in. Not to mention that nobody should be talking you into a $500,000 loan or however big your mortgage is going to be. That needs to be your decision. So here's a couple things that you can do, or a couple questions that you can ask yourself to make sure that now is a good time to buy, or to set the bar a little further ahead and to push that goalpost down your timeline to say, you know what, it might not be the best time right now. So let's get into it. First of all, right time is subjective. For myself, the right time to buy my first home was when I had a full-time permanent teaching position, and I knew that I was going to be earning a certain amount of money every year and that would increase. There was some comfort there. I also knew that when I purchased my first home, my mortgage payment would be comparable to what I was paying in rent monthly anyways. I was comfortable putting out that amount of money, myself and my partner, my boyfriend at the time, now husband. And together, we decided, you know what, it just makes sense. We have some savings. We're going to put it into a property and we're going to become homeowners. For us, it was quite an easy decision. It seemed like the timing in our life aligned with the financial timing and the market. Of course, this was almost 15 years ago now. The market was a little bit better and a little bit easier to get into. So it was a no-brainer for us. For other folks, there may be different contributing factors to that decision to buy your first home. But it's important to note how the real estate market works. So it's affected by supply, demand, and sentiment, especially at that first-time homebuyer price point. So supply, if there is a lot of supply, if there are a lot of listings in your area, then typically the prices will be a little bit lower, less competitive. If there is not a lot of supply and a lot of demand, so a lot of folks who want to purchase homes, but not a lot of inventory on the market, then you're going to pay a pretty price for those homes because the prices are going to go up because more people are going to be competing for those homes. A great example of this was the COVID market that we saw in many spots all around Canada, actually. So many people wanted to move, but there were not enough homes for those people. So we were bidding, we were going in firm with no conditions. And that was a very, very competitive market, even for first-time home buyers. Now, I also mentioned sentiment. So because I work with interest rates, I see the sentiment swing widely, especially when there's Make Canada announcement or if the bond yields make a massive move and fixed interest rates drop or rise. Then we see the sentiment or the willingness to borrow money among Canadians will shift one way or the other, depending whether it's favorable to borrow money, it's cheaper to borrow money, or if it becomes more expensive, then people tend to back off the market and more opportunities arise at a better price. So that's kind of an overview of how the real estate market works. Now, depending on where you are in this pendulum swing between supply, demand, and sentiment, it might be more difficult to get into the market. So if you are not somebody who wants to compete on offers, who does not want to go in firm, which I would never suggest anyways, especially for a first-time buyer, then it might be a reason for you to back off your house hunt and to save a little bit more, to be more competitive in a subsequent season of home buying. And if you are qualified to buy the home that you want right now, and there's not a ton of competition in your area, it might be a great time for you to purchase your first home, because that means that you have a little bit more time to do your due diligence and to feel really comfortable with that decision. So again, I can't tell you if now is a good time for you or not, but those are some things that you should keep in mind when you're trying to make your decision. Next thing, waiting for rates to drop. There are some folks who I've been working with for years now who are waiting for interest rates to drop. And yes, I took a deep breath because I do not see interest rates dropping to the low rates that we saw in 2021. After that, the Bank of Canada had 10 consecutive interest rate hikes, and fixed rates have also gone up significantly since then. So do I see your borrowing power going back to what we saw in 2021? No, I don't. I think that this is our new normal with rates around 3 to 5%. I think that we will sit here and truly that is a healthy interest rate for Canadians. You might talk to your parents who purchased in the 90s who will say, oh, we had an 18% interest rate and yada, yada. Things change. Things are always in flux. Interest rates will always be a big story because it's going to affect the monthly payment that you pay. But like I said in a previous podcast, you should definitely be planning your purchase from that monthly payment perspective to make sure that it's affordable for you and something that you can sustain throughout the next 3 to 5 years of your mortgage term. That brings me to my next question to ask yourself when you're thinking of purchasing your first home, when you're thinking of is now a good time, is what can I put out monthly for that mortgage payment, mortgage, utilities, insurance, carrying costs for my house. Make a budget. A budget is really the easiest way to understand if you are ready to take on a mortgage loan. If your mortgage that you would be getting into is comparable, like me, to the rent that you're paying on your apartment or on your home, and you think, you know what, that could work for me, then now may be a good time. This brings me to my very last point. How can I find out for sure if this is affordable? A pre-approval is always going to be the best way to see what you can carry mortgage-wise and what you need to do to be able to get to the purchase price that's realistic in your region. If you've listened to previous podcasts that I've recorded, you know that sometimes that's not realistic immediately. When we work together, we devise a plan with actionable steps that's going to take you closer to becoming a homeowner, and we'll also figure out a timeline that makes sense for you to own that first home, to get into your home. If you want to get started, go ahead to www.briecallme.com, book a free virtual call, and I look forward to helping you decide whether 2026 is the year that you become a homeowner or not. Thanks for listening to Homeowner AF, the Canadian first-time homebuying podcast. You'll find links to everything I mentioned in today's episode in the show notes, along with details on how to connect with me. I welcome all of your first-time homebuying questions. Send me a voice note to have your question featured on air. And if you're ready to talk through specifics for your first home purchase, you can book a free call at briecallme.com. Remember, if home ownership is your goal, you could be closer than you think. You just need the right information to make the right move. I'll be back next week with another tidbit to help you get there.